Sure.
They don't have to be all that.
Well, I mean, I can get you a letter size one like this.
Oh, that'd be fine.
We have two concerned citizens.
Cynthia.
These were moving.
George. First, you got the and corresponding person, county commissioner. We have Michelle.
I live just over one district.
It
must have been.
Except that semi-retired. Buddy is
putting it in the budget.
foreman.
Yes.
On this agenda, can we do some introductions?
I don't, even though it's not a specific item, I think you're okay with introductions. It's only right
I
to
didn't want to
do.
go off.
I think after the flag salute, that would be appropriate. It's not business for an action item. We're gonna have to pull some chairs.
Yes, seriously, have the table around the town.
Oh,
Well, yes, pick up. I can tell you what. Here's what you.
Yeah, and give her my best, please do.
Oh, no, okay, I don't know. I want this, I'm going back, that's my best side anyway.
And then
Mine doesn't take
but
much
you have to wait because you have to make, these are the sections.
Hey, I thought this is. Oh, did you
There's
really?
18.3, 17.3,
Okay.
yeah. And they're blocked out.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Chairman,
No,
Like with all this meeting to order.
He said don't cut out.
I thought I'd get back to the back one better on.
And our final member has come. And if you would all stand with me. And we'll ask Larry Kettles to, if he can get up, to lead us in the salute to the flag.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, before we go to number 3, I would like to have a introduction of the TIF Committee as well as the audience, because there are those here who do not know who it is that is in the audience. And so yeah, I can start off with, I am Mike Pearson. I'm County Commissioner for District 2, which is the eastern portion of Logan County. Jay?
I'm Jay Smith. I'm the administrator at Logan County Health Department.
I'm Tom Friedman, Superintendent at Francis Tuttle Technology Center.
I am Charles Jarrett, farmer out north of Guthrie. Larry Kettles, insurance, breeder of horses here in Guthrie.
Brett Town, Associate Superintendent at the schools.
Tommy Tatum.
Dan McMahan, counsel.
we can move some chairs around if we need to.
Where we want to start, John?
Sure, I'm John Foudray with Nuterra Properties Group, representative of the developer.
Charles Williams, anesthesiologist and member of Trinity Regional Development.
Sir?
Chris Alton with MidFirst Bank.
Al Fudge with MidFirst Bank.
Carol Piper, First Deputy Assessor's Office.
I'm David White, engineer for Logan County Rural Water.
I'm Buddy Thompson, manager of Logan County Rural Water.
You're up, Kathy.
Oh, I didn't get it all. Interested citizen.
I'm Hugo, I'm spy from southern Logan County.
Paul Van Harvey, Mid-First Bank.
I'm Josh Tucker with Mercy Hospital, Logan County.
Janet Yowell, Edmond Economic Development Authority.
Hey Wade, Logan County Economic.
Monty Peterson.
Marvin Goodman.
I'm Troy Cole, the county clerk, and we didn't get a chance to catch Catherine.
I'm Catherine Singleton with Nuterra Properties Group.
All right.
Chairman, if I may, there's a board going around. If I could make sure that I have everyone sign
I got
names.
everybody's signature.
Thank you, Monty.
Very good. Item number 3, consideration and possible action on approving the minutes of November 17, 2014.
I will make a note that Jay called me this morning. I had one little error where it said he was absent here. He's not. I've corrected that. This is a new print. That was the only correction I was alerted to.
And anybody's ready, I would accept a motion to accept the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion.
Second.
Who? Jay?
So all those who are in favor of accepting the minutes as they've been amended, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Next is item number 4. Consideration and possible action on appointing a vice chairman of the TIF Review Committee number 2. Motions are being made. What? Anybody have a desire to be vice chairman? Do we have a nomination?
Make a motion on Dr. Friedman.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations? Other nominations?
Who
Any
seconded?
nominations?
Who seconded?
That was Larry.
Thank you.
Seeing no other nominations, do we, I think we have to have everybody say aye, is that right? Yeah, I'm asking on this one. I believe
If there's
so.
no discussion, you might make sure he wants it.
I see.
You got me kind of a loss here, how this just happened. I mean, I won't say no, somebody said that, but I appreciate your confidence.
Very well,
Don't hold it again.
I might.
and that would be a vote by acclamation, and therefore you are now our vice chair.
Which means you can't ever not be absent, never be absent.
That means I don't have to come to any more of these. Item number 5, consideration and possible action on appointing a secretary of the TIF Review Committee. Do we have any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I think your practice in the past has been to ask Troy to serve.
It is.
Thanks, Dan.
Very good.
Do we have a motion on that,
I make
or a
a
nomination?
I'll Troy.
Nomination. Okay. Second nomination. Vote by acclamation. I assume that that's closed, so vote by acclamation. Do I have a vote? Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Very good. Congratulations, Troy. Number 6 is an overview of the tax increment financing in Oklahoma. And at this time, I'd like to present Dan McMahan. Dan?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. If it's okay with the committee, I'd like to just scoot up to the table and do this in a rather informal fashion. My name is Dan McMahan. I'm the counsel for Logan County, special counsel, I guess I should say. They have retained me to represent the county and to advise this body in connection with matters like this one, which are arising under the Oklahoma experience is 30 years, 31 years of public finance work in Oklahoma. I've done legal work in other areas as well. Public finance is what I've done the most of. For the past 12 or so years, my practice has been primarily concentrated in helping groups like this with tax increment financing and economic development throughout the state of Oklahoma. I used to keep track of how many TIF districts I worked on, and I stopped counting at 30, and that was a couple of years ago. I will tell you that no matter how many I do, I always learn something every time I do a new one. And the people that have taught me the most have been the people who have been members of the review committees. So I expect to learn quite a bit from you as part of this process. Hopefully, maybe I can return the favor. But my job is to make sure that you get your questions answered. My job is not to advocate on behalf of the developer, but my job is to represent ultimately Logan County and the commissioners as they consider this proposal and what's best for Logan County. With that being said, let me talk a little bit about tax increment financing. Some of you already know quite a bit about it, so forgive me if I tell you something you already know. Logan County has done one so far, and I think there's a pretty good understanding here in the courthouse about how TIFs work in general. A tax increment district, and when I say TIF, I'm referring to tax increment districts, is a tool that we use to help finance primarily economic development projects, but they can be also community development projects throughout the state of Oklahoma. We have been doing tax increment financing in Oklahoma for about 10 years. 2004 is when it really got started. The Oklahoma legislature tried to pass tax increment legislation in 1980. They did not have the aid of a constitutional amendment when they did it, and the provision that they adopted, unfortunately, ran afoul of several provisions of the Oklahoma Constitution. So the Attorney General issued an opinion saying you couldn't do tax increment financing in Oklahoma. Since then, the legislature adopted a second statute. There's a court case that says that second statute was constitutional, but I will tell you it's politically so ugly that no one should use it. And I can say that because I wrote it. So if anybody can talk about how bad of a piece of legislation is it, I think it's my right to do so. It was constitutional, but it wasn't working. It imposed a cost on county government that just made it politically unfeasible to use. As we move forward in time, 1990, the voters of the state of Oklahoma adopted a constitutional amendment that authorized tax increment financing, authorized also something called tax incentive districts. The Oklahoma legislature adopted legislation that gave effect to that constitutional amendment in 1992. And then there was a period of time in which the lawyers all tried to throw rocks at it, and some succeeded. The Oklahoma Supreme Court issued an opinion saying that the legislation was flawed, couldn't be used. We finally get that fixed in early 2001, 2002. Since then, tax increment financing has been on the statewide ballot 2 additional times, and the voters have approved both of those propositions to amend the Oklahoma Constitution. So there's been 3 times in which the voters of the state of Oklahoma have approved the concept of tax increment financing. We finally have, I think, a pretty good set of statutes to use, and we have a couple of Oklahoma Supreme Court decisions that are favorable to the use cities use tax increment financing. We've seen a couple of counties use tax increment financing as well. It's also a tool that's used in 49, 50 states. The 50th state has something that is very similar to tax increment financing, although they don't call it that. That gives you a little bit of information about the pedigree of tax increment financing. Let's talk about what it is. Tax increment financing is a tool, legal tool, that can be used to reallocate a portion of certain types of revenue, both tax and non-tax, for specified public purposes. And the Oklahoma Constitution and the statutes tell us how to do that. The statutes that set up tax increment districts provides for this entity, a review committee, to be established whenever there is a proposal regarding tax increment district. The legislature requires that a review committee be composed of representatives of the various taxing entities whose taxes may be impacted by the proposal, as well as by 3 at-large representatives of the public, also by a member of the governing body of the entity that would be forming the district. In this case, it's Logan County, and that the representative of the governing body serve as chairman. So that's why we don't get to vote on the chairman. He's appointed by statute. In this case, we don't have a representative of the planning commission. It's my understanding that we don't have a planning commission that has jurisdiction of this side. And that these are the various taxing entities, the Career Tech, Edmond Public Schools, and the Logan County Health Department, whose taxes might be impacted by this proposal. So that is the statutory composition of this body, and it's why you're here today. We appreciate your willingness to serve, all of you. We know this is time away from busy schedules. We don't want to waste any of your time. We want to make sure that we answer all your questions, however, and make sure that you get whatever information you need so you can do your job. And your job is to make a recommendation and a set of findings for the commissioners, who will ultimately have to vote to create the tax increment district. They can do that with or without the approval of this body. But I will tell you, in my dozen years or so doing this, I've yet to see a political entity, a governing board, take action that was at variance with the recommendations of the governing body, of a review committee. So even though it's possible, legally possible, for the commissioners to take some action that's different from what you recommend, I've not seen it done. And I would caution the commissioners against doing that, because the review committees serve an awful important purpose in my tax increment districts. We're going to talk in depth about it, but suffice it to say that tax increment districts are done many different ways in many different parts of the country. We do, in my practice, a very particular way. There's 2 other attorneys in the state of Oklahoma that do tax increment districts. They do it slightly different than I do it. It makes my approach different from their approach. Oklahoma's law is quite a bit different from the laws of other states. When you hear about a TIF district done in Wisconsin or Virginia or California, you may or may not like what you hear. There are instances of TIF districts in other states that I object to, that I find not good practice. Some of you are familiar with TIF districts in California. They've been the subject of a lot of news stories lately in the past few years. California has a completely different approach to TIF districts than we have. So if you are familiar with the California TIF districts, you may be wanting to judge this one based on that knowledge, and I would caution you against that. Ours will be different from what the California experience is. In fact, different from even the last TIF district done in Logan County. So, please keep in mind there's lots of different ways to do TIF districts. I think there are good TIF districts, and I think there are bad TIF districts. I think the legislature believed that as well. If they thought all TIF districts were bad, they would not have adopted the Local Development Act. If they believed all TIF districts were good, they wouldn't have included in the Local Development Act a requirement for a review committee like this to make recommendations to the governing body. So, keep that in mind. We're not prejudging this particular proposal. There's a process that has to be moved through, and as we go through the process, the proposal may change, may be refined. I told the commissioners that they shouldn't adopt a resolution allowing for a review committee unless the commissioners could see at least some potential proposal that might be acceptable to them. The commissioners have not agreed to create a TIF district. They've not agreed to any particular terms of TIF district. They have, I think, some ideas about what they don't want to see in the TIF district. And the proposal hopefully will conform to those requirements. But that doesn't mean that they have seen all of the details or that they know yet how they would view a particular proposal. They are waiting for the recommendations and findings from this body before they make up their mind. So, please know that your job is a very important one. This is an especially important project for Logan County. It is a very complicated project. The first TIF district done in Logan County was relatively simple. Not much money, a very straightforward project, simple project, not many moving parts, quite frankly. This is completely different. This is at the other end of the scale. This is a very complicated TIF district. This has a lot of moving parts. There will be a lot to wrap your heads around. There'll be a lot of details that we want to present to you, make sure that you understand the ramifications. And I think as we go through it, you'll have a better idea of what we're actually talking about. But suffice it for now to say the developer has made a proposal. They're here to discuss that proposal with you, to answer any questions you may have regarding that proposal. Feel free to ask them anything that you think is important to you in making your recommendation. They have not, it is not the job of the developer to prepare what's referred to in the statute as the project plan. That's my job on behalf of the county. And at the next meeting, we'll look at the project plan in detail. Suffice it to say that the developer is simply asking what you to consider their project, what their needs are, and then we'll put in paper form what they're asking for, so you can consider how the TIF district will actually work for their project. Very briefly, I apologize. That's not much information, but hopefully we'll get a chance to visit about the details as we go forward. Are there any questions I can answer at this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You were talking just a minute ago about different entities that would be impacted here,
Yes.
Edmond Public Schools, Logan County Hospital, what you was.
No, sir. Logan County Health Department.
Health Department.
These are entities that have constitutional authorizations for ad valorem purposes. Some are discretionary, some are not. But at this point in time, these three entities levy ad valorem taxes within this area.
What was the third one?
The career tech.
Okay.
And it's my understanding the proposal does not include sales taxes at this point. So we don't have, we won't be considering the impact for sales taxes. The statute says we can use any kind of tax or non-tax revenues. But ad valorem are the common ones that are used. Sometimes sales taxes, sometimes lodging taxes. But in theory, you can use parking meter revenue if you wanted to as the basis for your increment district. But you wouldn't raise near as much as you would in ad valorem taxes.
How often is our sales tax used for tips? Is that common or is it rare?
It is rare unless you're talking about some type of destination retail project where you're trying to draw folks into a community from outside the area.
Outside money?
If you include sales tax and it's for, say, a non-destination project, what you tend to see is simply a cannibalization of sales tax in other parts of the community. People will shop here instead of shopping 2 miles away. And so really it's very rare that you see the kind of retail proposal that lends itself well to the sales tax base. Tulsa Hills project in Tulsa on Highway 75 is an example where sales tax was used for a fairly large destination retail project.
I can show you the Embassy Hotel in Norman, there at Robinson, just off of I-35, just east of that. That also is a sales tax, I believe.
Is it?
Does Logan County have sales tax that goes into the county coffers?
Logan County does.
Well, not to the county proper. Our sales tax, it's a county tax, but it's designated. In fact, it will change January 1st to a total of 3/4 cent, with a quarter designated to the 13 fire departments in the county, a quarter to the highway districts to be divided evenly to the 3 highway districts, and a quarter to the jail.
So it's all earmarked.
It is.
The thing that I would note is, and it's more important from a legal standpoint than it is perhaps any other, is that even though the ad valorem levies are constitutionally earmarked, in your case, public schools, career tech, health department, the fact that there is a constitutional provision authorizing tax increment revenue creates an exception to the general rule that taxes levied for one purpose cannot be used for another purpose. And before 1990, we did not have a constitutional provision that accepted tax increment revenues from that general rule. And that's actually a separate section of the Oklahoma Constitution says taxes levied for one purpose cannot be used for another purpose. And so that was the basis for the Attorney General's opinion back in the 80s as to why that statute failed constitutionally, because it was attempting to do something that there wasn't an exception for. When Troy mentions that the sales tax has been earmarked for various purposes, in the same way, if sales tax were to go into this, we would not have to honor the earmarking for county roads, county jail, that they would be repurposed, if you will. And that's the real essence, that's the real magic of a tax increment district, is that we can use taxes that have been levied for one purpose for a different purpose. It's consistent with the Oklahoma Constitution and the Local Development Act. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it, Dan. Very much so. Move on to item 7 is a presentation by John Foudray, Nuterra Development, and discussion of that presentation. There's no action will be taken on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of you who see this up on the screen are probably groaning because you've sat through it probably once or twice or maybe even 3 times. But I think it's important that we go through this presentation for those who haven't seen it before. They'll tell you outline of the project, what's included in the project, why the site, the advantages of the site, the baggage that comes along with the site, which will explain the need for the TIF, the reason for the TIF, the benefits we're going to bring to the county and to the state, to the taxing jurisdictions by doing the project, even with the TIF. And so our goal in the long run is to tell you that this is going to be a net benefit and a very big net benefit to not only the county but to the taxing jurisdictions, and will improve the quality of life for the residents in Logan County. So, Catherine, she's Vanna White today. Our clicker doesn't work. We're going to do a recap of the development, why it's beneficial to Logan County, and then changes in the TIF plan in response to the commissioner's concerns. When we originally came up with the concept for the TIF plan and presented it to the county commission, they had concerns with the way that we were structuring the TIF and what it included and what it didn't. So we went back and modified the plan and then presented it to the commissioners again, and then they voted to move it on to this review committee. Okay, the purpose of the review committee, as Dan said, is so you can study, formulate, and refine the needs and requirements of both parties so we can come up with a TIF plan that's acceptable to the developer and to the county. Okay, the owner is Trinity Regional Development, which is a local group of over 70 investors that have purchased this property and are developing it. Nuterra Properties Group, we are the master developer. We're headquartered in Leawood, Kansas, and we're a full-service real estate development firm. We specialize in medical-related developments. We've developed over 24 projects over the last 10 years, and we're currently developing 4 medical-related projects in 3 different states. Other developers, the way that this project is worked is Trinity Regional Development owns the land. Our goal is to put this TIF in place that will enable other developers to come in and buy land and build their projects on it. For instance, we have a senior living developer who is looking at this site. He will come in and he will buy land from Trinity Regional Development. He will develop and build a senior living center. We're talking to some convenience store operators. They would come in and buy land. So we are not the developers of the projects on the site, and Trinity Regional Development will not come in typically and be the developer. This is to sell land to third-party entities who will come in and build their own projects on the site. We have to get the site ready, and we have to provide the infrastructure for those other people to come in. Okay, here's the master plan and the location of the site. Excuse me for walking up. This is 35 here, Waterloo Road here. This is Sooner Road going up here. Actually, this is we're taking a little bit of liberty. The property line actually runs, I believe, about right here. We don't go all the way over to Sooner Road. But the master plan is to, here's the 147 acres of site. Generally along Waterloo Road, we have our commercial, more retail-oriented development that we use for people to travel the site. We have a road that would come up here to the north, at the back. There's one of our anchor tenants or users would be a hospital development, an active office building, a senior living center. We're talking to a skilled nursing operator. Down here would be more retail uses like convenience stores, restaurants, maybe a bank location. As you get back towards the rear portion of the site, the northwest portion, that would be for residential purposes. So in effect, you have dense development here, and then as you get to the back, you have less dense development as you get back here. So we'd have some like maintenance provided living back here, and then maybe even some single-family home lots here in the rear.
Question.
So
The capstone there in the middle is a hospital, is that what you said?
the hospital would be here.
Right, okay.
And this is just the concept, and it'll change, and I'll show you a few of the changes that we've even made to date. But this is sort of the general plan for the site. So a very robust plan, a lot of high dense commercial development, which generates a lot of property taxes and sales taxes as well. Okay, this is phase one. Can you go back one slide, Captain? I'm sorry. Anyway, here are a connected village of mixed uses, unique and programmed open spaces. We have some open spaces, high density development along the major roads, low density at the rear. We're going to improve the traffic flow as we get into detail. We intend, as part of the TIF and part of the infrastructure improvement, is to widen Waterloo Road. There's quite a bad traffic situation there now. We will improve that. Okay.
When you say widen it, what are you entailing? Is it 2-lane with decel and turn lanes?
Well, right now, the state of Oklahoma is going to redo this interchange. And so they've got 3 different design scenarios. Basically, all of them they'll improve this interchange, and then little road improvements will come over here to Voucher Road, which is the road that turns south into that industrial park. So what we're going to do is actually our entrance to the site, which shows it here, we're actually going to align it with Voucher. So our plan would be to put a signalized intersection here, and then we'll improve Waterloo Road over to Center Road. So right now, the north side of that of the road, which would be in Logan County, the north lane would become a center turn lane, and we would add 2 more lanes to the north. So we would have a through lane, and then we would have a right turn lane into the project. And we've been talking with Oklahoma County. Matter of fact, Catherine and I just came from a meeting with Commissioner Ray Vaughn from Oklahoma County, and they're also interested in helping improve Waterloo Road and maybe expand it to the south as well. So there's a huge traffic congestion problem here, and we hope between the interchange improvements and then our widening of Waterloo Road, we can relieve a lot of that congestion.
And if I may make an interjection on that as well, if you'll notice, Waterloo Road coming off of I-35 currently is south of the Logan County line.
Here's the
and
line
therefore,
right here.
And therefore, there would be none of the project that would involve that portion of Waterloo.
Now, in the state plans for that interchange, the ones that we've seen, I think at least 2 of them, they would straighten that road back out.
Correct.
So it would straddle the county line like the rest of Waterloo Road does. That's why we're only going to work from here and go that way. This is the phase 1 of the site, which would be the initial projects that we intend to build today, and which includes the hospital and medical office building up here at this corner of the site, a senior living facility in this area. We're also talking to a skilled nursing facility operator that wants to be somewhere close to the hospital, a convenience store, and then a restaurant. And then along here would be more retail uses along Waterloo. But what we try to base the plan on in the TIF, and we'll talk about this later, is that we're only counting the income from these properties, the tax revenue that these properties will generate to pay off the TIF. We've done that to be conservative, so in our mind, that if nothing else ever gets built on this site, everything works, everybody gets paid off, and no one's really at any risk. We can, an alternate is to go ahead and count, what I think will happen is as soon as, if we're fortunate enough for the TIF to get approved, we make these sales, we think we're just going to continue sales, and this is just going to keep moving along. If we counted the rest of the projected revenue of the project, then we can pay off the TIF proceeds much, much earlier than we project. So right now, it's projected to be a 25-year payback. But if you want to, and you want the TIF to be paid off earlier, we can count some of that additional revenue that will come in by other projects, and we can pay that much back much, much quicker. Feature uses additional retail, maybe a shopping center, restaurants. There's a big need for restaurants in Logan County. We'll get into that in a minute. A skilled nursing facility, urgent care center, office building. This would be a great site for a hotel. If we get the TIF approved, that's one of our next targets to go out and get a hotel operator, and then maybe some residential at the northwest corner of the site. Okay, phase 1. Here's what phase 1 will generate: over $100 million in construction activity. Construction alone will generate $184 million in spin-off economic activity and over 500 construction jobs. And upon completion, phase 1 will generate
$64 million in economic spin-off activity, and over 240 direct new permanent jobs and 200 indirect jobs in Logan County.
Can you go back one, please?
Sure.
I had a question on the hospital, to the rendering, not the rendering, but the overlay. Is that gonna be a for-profit hospital and not a tax exempt?
It'll be a for-profit hospital.
For-profit, okay. So eventually it would go on.
They'll be paying lots of taxes. Okay, phase 2 is projected upon build-out. This will generate another $140 million in construction, which construction alone spin off another $200 million in associated economic activity. Upon completion, it'll generate $70 million in associated economic activity, creates over 1,000 new direct jobs and 700 indirect jobs in Logan County. And over 47, and will generate, even with the TIF in place, new taxes will generate over $47 million in new taxes. Logan County, $16 million, the school district, $23 million, Tech, $5.5 million, the fire district, $2.6 million in additional brand new revenues, even with the TIF payments. So here's our projection of taxes over 25 years. And again, so we're going to generate the whole project, even with some of the debt service, even with some of these taxes being used to pay for the TIF, we're going to generate these additional taxes. So if we can capture some of these additional taxes, and if that's what we all agree to, and we want to pay that TIF off quicker, then we've got this additional revenue that we can use to do so. We structured it our way just to be conservative, but we're flexible, and whatever works for everyone, we're certainly open to. So we can see that you can see there's huge economic benefit for the county and the taxing entities. Some people say, well, tax, the TIF revenues and going towards the development is a use of tax dollars. Well, yes, it is a use of tax dollars, but if you would come to me and say, hey, John, I'm gonna make you $1 in new revenue, but I need to spend 25 cents of it, and you're at no risk for it, and you don't have to come out of pocket for it, will you do that? Well, I think that's a pretty good deal. So what we're just asking for is a portion of those new tax revenues that are generated so that the county and the taxing authorities can capture a lot more in the future.
How were these numbers derived?
You'll see that next week when Dan comes up with his development plan. We've got a TIF economic consultant that does these projections for TIF projects. He's done
Local one? I mean, I see.
He's not local, but Dan's used him before for projects. He's done, I don't know, probably 50 different TIFs or more across the country, and that's what we'll give our information to Dan, and then that's what he'll present at the next meeting. And you'll be able to dive into the details of all those numbers.
Currently, currently that 3685 that's a 25-year number?
Yes.
Or is that, okay.
So this is what, if the development doesn't occur, this is what everyone's going to get over 25 years.
That's based on $126 per year, I believe.
Right.
Of the current TIF districts that's already been utilized, how many of them have been used for a for-profit hospital?
Well, here's what I want to correct. Dollars aren't being used for the hospital to make the hospital work. The only thing the hospital is doing is they're buying land from Trinity Regional Development, just like the restaurant is, just like the senior living center, just like a banquet or anyone else. The use of the TIF is to make the site make economic sense. And we're going to get that to the difference into here just a little bit into the details. But as of now, with these infrastructure costs that we have associated, the site just doesn't make economic sense to develop. So all we're trying to do is make the real estate work so that people can come in and buy land and create these other projects. So there isn't money per se going to the convenience store or the hospital and those people and those places.
But I think it's a misnomer when you state in your photo there, and the question was asked, a for-profit hospital.
Well, it is a for-profit hospital.
Let me clarify that, because if we have Mercy or Integris or somebody like that come in, they're tax exempt, and we would receive no ad valorem over time from them. but in a for-profit, once the
But
TIF
I-
expires, we would receive it.
Okay. But there again, it takes me back to the question. You've got two new hospitals at 15th and 35. You come on up to Second Street, you got OU. Are we gonna set up a hospital every 10 miles?
Well, that's not a hospital there at Mercyville down on 935. That's a rehabilitation center, is my understanding. And therefore, it doesn't have specifically hospital.
But initially, wasn't this proposed a specialty type hospital?
Yeah, this will not be a huge acute care hospital that it's not gonna be a 10-story building that you might see somewhere down in Oklahoma City. And it isn't gonna have the services of a big, huge hospital, but, the market, hopefully, we hope that the market will dictate where the hospitals go and where there's a need, and I think we're gonna demonstrate that there is a need for one.
That was kind of what I was just wondering, and you brought us right into it, and that is the need. Is that gonna pull away from Logan County, and how much? And
Well-
is the growth there that's requiring that need by some certain year timeframe?
No and yes. We think we're gonna demonstrate by what's happening in Logan County today, that we don't think we're gonna the hospital would not pull cases from them. And we also are demonstrating that there's a huge out-migration of medical services from Logan County to Edmond to Oklahoma City. Tens and tens of millions of dollars of people are leaving Logan County and going elsewhere to get medical services. So that's the portion that we want to capture.
Okay.
Okay, and I think we have some information on that.
I'm just trying to understand here. We're on a learning curve.
Right.
There lies the liability of the county should your project fail. How much liability is there on the county? And I think that's a big question. And the need for that hospital in Logan County, there's a lot of people who say there's no need for additional hospital services in Logan County. Again, because they don't see anyone being impacted by the lack of that hospital being there.
Well, I think we'll show you that that there is a big need for those services, and there's going to be tremendous growth in this area, and there's a big demand today, and we think there's going to be higher demand tomorrow. So we want to capture a piece of that pie that's going to other places. But anyway, we'll get into that in our future slide. But I do want to address your first question. There's no risk to the taxpayers on this TIF. The TIF, the payment of the TIF, of the taxes, they go to repay the bonds or the TIF. That's solely on the people who own that property. You have to pay your taxes. I mean, that's the first lien on a piece of property. Before a bank gets paid, before anybody gets paid, you have to pay your taxes, and somebody is going to pay taxes on that property. And so for the Logan County taxpayers will never be a risk for any of those payments. It solely comes from property taxes, which, guess what? You pay or you go to jail, right? Somebody someday is going to pay the taxes on those properties. So the risk to the taxpayers are extremely low. Okay, community engagement, we take a number of steps to meet with the community and explain the TIF plan for them, so that hopefully we've informed as many people in the community as possible. We've launched an informational website. If you go to logancountyforward.com, it has a lot of information about the project and information about TIF. We put public announcements in the local newspaper. We've circulated press releases. We've sent letters to the adjacent property owners, and we've held 2 public meetings, one on the north side of the county, one on the south side of the county. And then we've met or spoke with the taxing jurisdictions involved in the project. Here's all the meetings we've had over the past several months. We've met with Oklahoma Department of Transportation, Edmond Public Schools, the public meeting, the VOTEC, the Rural Water District, the Logan County EDC. We've met with as many people as possible that have a stake in the project or need to be informed about the project.
Same thing here, the feedback we had approximately 100 residents and stakeholders attend our 2 public meetings. We heard support for the economic development the project will bring, support for the needed services in the county. People want to be able to stop and buy gas and get a hamburger and go buy some shoes and things like that. Support for increased tax revenues for the community. County needs taxes to repair the roads and things like that, and we will generate additional revenue for the county. Questions about the impact TIF will have on the taxing jurisdictions, and I think we've demonstrated we're a net benefit to the taxing jurisdictions. What happens if TIF fails? I just spoke about that. There really is no risk to Logan County taxpayers. Comments about government supports for private enterprises. You know, some people have the philosophy that government should not be involved in helping developments and helping things like that occur. But I think what we demonstrate is that this project, and just like a lot of real estate development, and that's why Dan's been involved in 30 TIFs over the years, the numbers today and the costs that it takes to develop property and the governmental regulations and rules and everything else makes it a very expensive proposition. This site has a little bit additional baggage associated with it that, quite frankly, if we didn't have, we wouldn't be here today and asking for the TIF. It would be much simpler if we could just go out and do this development, but we can't today. And so we think, again, as I said earlier, if we can prove that there's a huge net economic benefit to the county and new jobs created and new taxes, we think it's a win-win for the county. And then questions about how the traffic is generated by the project, how that will be mitigated. That's why we went through the Waterloo road improvement, and that's why we included those improvements in the project. You know, just as a developer, we would say, hey, we'll do our site in county, Waterloo Road is yours. And it would be stacked up there as it is today from bumper to bumper for the next 15 years. But we want to make it work. We want to make it work for the county. We want people to get in and out of our project, and we want people want to come to that location, not avoid it because there's traffic congestion there. So we think that even with the project, we'll improve the community, the quality of life for residents. If nothing else, if you're getting on and off I-35, you're not going to have to sit in traffic for a half hour every day at 5 o'clock. Okay, economic demand and out-migration. Okay, the project creates an opportunity to capture some of the economic activity that's presently living in Logan County. We had a very thorough economic analysis done by the Catalyst Consulting Group about this area, the incomes, the money that people spend on retail, on cars, on shoes, on restaurants, and where they spend those dollars. And hundreds of millions of dollars a year are Logan County residents are leaving Logan County and they're spending that money elsewhere. And what we're trying to do is capture some of that and keep it in the county. Right now, there's an opportunity for 188,000 new square feet of retail space in Logan County today. There's also a market for over 110 senior housing units over the next 4 years. And this is a study done by Catalyst. What we did is they looked at the metropolitan service area, which is Oklahoma City, Edmond, which is one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the nation. Our primary trade area, which we really target, is this, what you see in the red up there in the middle. The little square in the middle is our site, and then the red squiggly line around it is a 10-minute drive from the site, and that's the area that we studied. Okay, so goods and services need to be located near population growth to prevent Logan County residents from spending, I'm sorry if I keep walking in front of the screen here, from spending their money elsewhere. So here's the area of growth that's going to be coming in Logan County. So where are all these people going to be getting on and off the highway? Right here. And that's why that site is there. And that's one of the big reasons that we selected it. All these people right now and all this growth are going to be, they're going down here and they're spending their money down here. We want to keep that money up there.
May I interject on that just real quick? the area on the west side of the 147 acres of the district, there's a strip right there that currently is undeveloped, basically. Older gentleman living there, nothing there. Do you project that he's going to be passing on here in the relatively near future? I'm sorry to say, we all do that sometime or another. But I look at how much revenue do you think that the school districts, the health department and all might be generating by that, as well as on the west side of the center, again, we have property there that is basically undeveloped. There's a few little businesses there. And then when you look on the south side of Waterloo, with the improvements in there, there's a lot of area there in Oklahoma County outside of Evan, that half mile there, that's still in the rural water district. Again, that most likely will be fleshing out, and more property tax revenue will be coming from that. So I don't look at just that area of that TIF area. I'm looking at that actually whole Sooner corridor going up into Logan County, and a lot of that on the south side of Waterloo that is also going to be able to generate ad valorem taxes for those particular property tax recipients. And so I look at this project as having a much larger impact on the total income for both counties than just what's being addressed in this TIF district.
Well, I think it's indisputable that growth is occurring, it is going to occur, and it's, you know, it's going north. So it's just a matter of time that they,
I also think that would not necessarily happen, certainly not as rapidly, unless something else happens and you guys develop it, whether there's a TIF district or not. I think that's, I don't know if that would come anyway or not, but I do believe it would. I believe it would come, but I think it would be much further down the road.
Right, and I've been in this development business for a long time, and growth, there's lots of bad things that come along with growth that I personally don't like, but growth does occur and will occur over time. So you can have good growth, and you can control it, and you can make it happen the way you want it to happen, or you can not be proactive, and you can just let it happen and not control it, and end up with something and send you an area of town that you really don't like. So that's been my philosophy.
That's where I'm at on Waterloo right there.
Okay, so this shows here the areas of population growth that you see. Here, the red is negative growth in the medium, and then the green will get into some good areas through here. So here's some growth areas here in Logan County, but the jobs are going elsewhere. They're not coming to Logan County. So people are moving to Logan County, but they're not working there. Next slide, Captain. So the total trade area population, which is again that 10-minute drive around the site, which is this area here, is projected to grow by 24,000 people, and I think that's over 10 years. Was that? I think that's right. But only create 5,000 new jobs.
Says 2035.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. People are going to come here to live, but they're going to work somewhere else, and they're going to take their disposable income somewhere else too, and we want to reverse that trend. Okay, so this is meant to show, this is everything that Catalyst looked at. And they looked at all these different places that people spend their money. They look at motor vehicle sales, furniture, food and beverage sales, health and personal sales, clothing, sporting goods, general merchandise, miscellaneous retail, neighborhood retail stores, food service and dining places. And they looked at the demand for all those products and goods and services in the target market area, and then where the gap is. So basically, what this column tells you is the gap in 2010 and 2035. So
what it demonstrates is that today, there's $57 million, and that's not the right number, it's three, it's, I don't know what the total is on that. but-
We had to add it up, it's over 300 million.
Yeah, over $300 million today that people are taking and they're spending in other locations other than Logan County to buy all these goods and services. And by 2035, that number's gonna at least double. So there's gonna be $600 million of disposable income leave this county and be spent somewhere else. And again, it broke it down by each one of these categories. But this tells you the information, why we picked this site and why we think this is a good market, why we think there's a huge demand out there for medical services, for retail, for senior living, for everything else that we're talking about. Okay, retail leakage of over $300 million a year out of Logan County going to other places. Of that, food services, restaurants, and gasoline sales make up $128 million today. So if you had the appropriate number of food service places, restaurants, and gasoline sales businesses in Logan County, you'd be getting $128 million of additional sales in this county, which you generate businesses from. Today, over 400,000 square feet of new business development is required to meet current demand. So of that retail leakage, of that gap, you could build 400,000 square feet today and fill it up with all those goods and services and restaurants and businesses and whatever, just to meet today's demand. That's what it would take.
Yeah, just so I'm understanding you right, you're saying right now that there's $300 million a year located in Logan County that's leaving Logan County.
In that target market, there's that much money that people are spending outside of that area.
All the people that work outside of Guthrie are gonna shop on their way home.
Right.
Other than stop and get some takeout chicken when they get off of I-35 or 33. The bulk of the shopping in that retail clothing, except is being done either in this gentleman's area in Edmond, as you can see the work that they've done, the stores that they have available. And that's what we don't have at this particular time.
And here's how we're going to talk about the medical and the demand, and why we don't think we're going to have a huge effect on Logan County Medical Center, and then the economic activity that medical uses generate. Right now, 76% of all inpatient procedures, medical care for area residents are provided outside of Logan County. So all we want to do is capture some of that 75%. Private sector medical community has been very beneficial for Edmond and Oklahoma City. Why not for Logan County as well? Here's an example of what's happening down in Oklahoma County. In 2010, there were 22,744 hospital jobs created, plus another 18,000 jobs created by spin-off economic activity just from hospital jobs. Total income for those jobs, $2.3 billion, which resulted in $716 million in retail sales and $32 million in state sales tax. So we think there's a big gap here. We want to fill it, and we want to capture some of those dollars up here in Logan County. So the employment multiplier for a hospital job is 1.8. So for every job you create in a hospital, it creates another 0.8 jobs. Sorry, I was figuring out what the best way to say that was. So a 200 employee hospital would create another 160 spin-off jobs for the community. Okay, questions about how a new hospital would affect Logan County Medical Center and its critical access designation. The hospital's critical access hospital designation is not affected by the new development, development of new medical services in the service area. There's a radius around a critical CAH hospital that supposedly is not supposed to have a medical area in it, and that's what has designation. And Integris has already built within that 35-mile radius. So if building a hospital within that radius affected the designation, it would have already done so when they built that hospital. And since Logan County is designated as a medically underserved area, by definition, that means you need more medical services in Logan County. I mean, the government has said it's underserved. So there's demand for more services in Logan County. And it has been said that approving a TIF would violate Logan County's non-compete with mercy. The TIF proceeds aren't being used by the hospital, it's being used by a real estate developer to develop the 147 acres, which the hospital sale of a site to a hospital is just one portion of. The other thing is that the non-compete clause with Logan County Medical Center goes to, I believe it's September of 2016. It's doubtful that that the hospital doors were open in that 5-year period. So if that hospital doesn't open before the end of the non-compete period, how can we be violating it? Or how can the hospital violate it? So here's the but-for test with the TIF, and what is, and Dan will dig into this next week, but there's a but-for test that says, but for the TIF, this project would not occur. So in a normal project, we would have our land cost, our development cost, and our infrastructure cost. So this project, not only do we have those three uses, but we have this phase one infrastructure. Normally when we go develop a project or in any place in the country, we go in and there's a water line in front of the road, and there's a road, and there's sanitary sewer service, and we go hook up to it and we're done. But in this case, those utilities aren't available, and that's why we're here today. The rural water district does not have funds available, nor does the county have funds available to put in those services. So we intend to use the TIF proceeds to pay to put in that infrastructure that normally government entities or utilities would provide, and we wouldn't have to. And in that way, we're ahead of the equation, so that our proceeds from our land sales are going to be greater than our cost, and we can make a market rate return on the project, and it makes sense. But if we have to pay for this additional infrastructure that normally would already be there, it doesn't work. And that's really the simple part of this equation. That if the county could come up with that funding and we pass a bond issue and pay for those improvements or whatever else could happen, we wouldn't be asking for the TIF. The infrastructure, we revised the TIF plan. So originally we had included in the TIF plans not only the improvement of Water Road, we had the construction of a main road up through the site. We've eliminated that from the TIF. Water wells, we've got rural water district number 1 here. And Buddy, I don't know if you can speak about the project, but in order to serve this site with water, the rural water district has to come in and drill wells and put in a 650,000 gallon storage tank and run lines between all those wells. And so they don't have the resources to do that today. We wish there was a water line coming in along Waterloo Road that we can tie onto and we could be done. And the other thing that's unique about our development, I know a lot of residential developments done around here, people come in and they just drill their wells and they put their house on a septic tank and you know, it's not that big a deal. But we've got dense commercial multi-story buildings. These buildings use a lot of water. They have to be fire sprinkled by code. So instead of, our water mains are much bigger than a typical, residential development. So our infrastructure needs are much more rigorous than a typical residential development. Our systems cost more, and so we have to put in a water system. Sewer, there is no sanitary sewer system available to the site at all. So we have to come in and install a water main along Waterloo Road that has to be piped off-site. We have to build sewage lagoons, which we then pump our sewage to and can handle the sewage that's generated by the site. Again, most places that you go develop, the sewer pipe's ready, you hook onto it and you're done. We can't do that here. We have to pay for it. That's why we're asking for the TIF. Waterloo Road, we've been through that previously. We're going to add 2 lanes and a stoplight voucher. And then we hopefully Oklahoma County will add that additional lane on the south side of the road as well. Right now, we're projecting capturing just those, the taxes generated by those phase 1 projects. We project it needs a 25-year term to pay back that TIF. But if you want to pay that back sooner, and we can capture some of that additional $47 million in tax revenue the rest of the projects will generate, then we can pay that TIF off much quicker.
Question on your sewer, that, are your lagoons going to be off-site of this 147 acres?
It'll be 2 to 3 miles away.
Are they going to be sized for the development of the whole site, or will it be evenly beyond that.
We'll buy enough property for the entire site, that we'll only build lagoons as we need them, so we'll add on as we go.
But nothing beyond the site. I mean, in like the city of Edmond, if a developer puts that in, they can actually charge people who are hooking on to it from other areas. That won't be the case in this.
Well, we'll work with the rural water district, and if they want to structure it that way, then we'll work with them on it. The thing about it is these systems will be public systems. Anything that the water district does on land, they will purchase the land, it will be on the water, it will be on their property. And then we have to buy the water from them at typical rates, just like anyone else buys water. And same thing for the sewer. It'll be a public utility in which we will pay sewer rates for.
If I may, currently rural water district extends down to Colville, so that would be both sides of the water, and it covers. Now, whether this project would be wanting to be expanded by Oklahoma County going through rural water or not is still unknown, but we're talking about development of that entire area. So the business can come in, they know how much water they have, they know how much sewer they have, and be able to develop into those areas that currently seem to be underdeveloped.
Right. We asked the city of Edmond, said, can we use your sewer service and can we get water from you? And they said, no, we don't have capacity to handle what we've got today. We're building more today.
I'd like to say one thing, and I don't want this to be taken as a facetious comment, but I think the basic words of caveat emptor apply here. You knew there was nothing there when you purchased the land. It's just like me. If I go buy a farm to raise cattle on, and I drive up and I buy it, there's no fence around it, no water on it, I don't call to the government to bail me out, or the county to put me a fence in, or bail me a pump.
Well, I think it depends on what you want there in the long run for Logan County and how much tax revenue and what economic benefits Logan County wants from the site. If you want someone to go up there and put a pig farm on that site, which they can do by use.
Going back there, and you mentioned the fact that rural water would implement the sewer, okay? The logic there is open lagoon, right? Okay, how many housing additions around there are going to be satisfied with 50-acre, 60-acre lagoons backing up in their housing addition? What's the problem there?
Well, we'll work that out with the rural water district, but there are lagoons all over this place. And
yeah, but that size of lagoon.
Well, there's lots of things that can occur that can be beneficial to other parties in their area as we do this project. I don't know if I want to talk about them today, but there are other people that need sewer services, so they can build and they can develop.
Well, let me give you an example. Long-term plans is for Guthrie Schools to build a new possible middle school. They're along sooner. Now, it would be in their best interest that there was already a sewer system there. And when it comes to the logistics of it running over into whatever kind of neighborhoods, that's the man to talk to, the engineer for rural water. I guarantee you the EPA would be all over that sucker if that happened.
I agree.
So I don't think that necessarily is an issue.
Well, but to go back to your comment, is that, okay, if this site, let's say if I wanted to buy it and I wanted to put a house on it, or 10 houses, or a pig farm, or whatever, or even if people think this is all about the hospital, which it's not, but even if the developers just wanted to go in and build a hospital there, they could come in and put the sewage lagoons on site, they could drill wells, and they would be just fine. They would have a hospital there, but you know what? You know what that would do for the county? It would contribute a little bit of jobs, a little bit of economic activity, a few taxes. But when you take it and you compare to what can occur at that site, and what the benefits are, and the tax revenues created, and the improvement of the quality of life of the residences, and it solves your problem along Waterville Road, that's what we're talking about. Is what are we buying here? What do we want in the long run? But you're right, that property, the way it is today, it'll support something on it,
It's just, what do you want, and what do you want to generate? And what we're saying is make an investor spend a nickel and get a dollar back. So that's where we're coming from. Okay, what's in it for Logan County? Hundreds of new jobs created.
Pump. The pump will go in all of.
Where they should have started priming the pump was right here at City Hall in Guthrie years ago.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Well, the city of Guthrie would like to have a project.
Well,
Yeah.
They've stumbled around with a lot of projects that are belly up and have been for years.
Well,
But everything that I presented.
so we want to continue that?
I didn't say that.
Well, that's.
I'm just trying to air out the question.
Basically
And
what
he
you're
mentioned a
saying.
while ago, this piece of property comes with baggage. Did you want to disclose that?
Well, that's the baggage I talked about, is the lack of infrastructure on the site. And again,
It
we
takes
just-
me back to caveat emptor. If you got money to buy a piece of property, accept it for what it is. And don't,
But we're asking the question, what do you really want? Do you want a building on that site that generates very little of everything we talked about? Or do you want a development that serves the needs of the community, adds jobs, adds growth, adds tax revenue, solves your congestion problems? And that's the question that we're asking. What is the biggest bang we can get for a buck out of the use of this land for everybody involved?
and I'm open, don't take me out of wrong or comment.
No, yeah, it's a very valid
Because,
question you asked.
like I say, that's what strikes me first. In other words, you go buy a piece of property and you think, well, this will make a wonderful rent house. You get in and there's no floor in it, no bathroom in it. Well, whose fault is that? Is it the real estate man or the guy that sold it? It's the man that bought it.
So you're in rural water district too?
I'm in rural water of my own well.
Got it.
Same way with my sewer system.
It's wonderful that you can get good water out.
So I'll just finish this slide and then we'll open up to questions. So anyway, new goods and services will be more readily available and accessible for Logan County residents. Congestion on Waterloo will be reduced. Hundreds of $1 million of economic spin-off activity for the state. Tens of millions of dollars of new tax revenue created. And what does it cost Logan County? Nothing really. Logan counties will never be arrested for $1. So anyway, that's our plan. That's why we're here. That's why we picked the site. And Dan, we'll get into the details next week, and when we put together our project plan, and we'll dig into these details, and then I'm open for questions. Thanks for your time.
Going back to the agreement that county commissioners had with the hospital when it was sold, Mercy took it, no competition, et cetera. I believe it's 5 years.
Correct, from
Whatever
September
date.
30th of 11.
My point is, we enter into a TIF agreement, we enter into something with Trinity. Mercy comes in with some litigation. Is Trinity gonna help us with our defense with Mercy on this contract agreement? Or will Logan County have to pay some legal counsel to defend our actions?
Well, I guess we have to jump off that bridge when we come to it, but, I just told you, well, what my perspective is on the
I just wanna know how deep the water is when we jump.
If there isn't a hospital there, within 5 years of their non-compete, then what
Well,
are
yeah.
they
With-
really after? What are they really doing for the community?
With development, et cetera, they will bypass the 5 years, because I know there's a large percentage of Logan County people going to Stillwater Hospital. There's a large percentage going to Enid.
Well, that's what we think will happen. And that's our purpose, is we're gonna capture, if we just capture a sliver of that out migration,
You're providing med flights, wants to come in, sign people up at a low rate, and they're setting them up to take people out of Logan County, either Stillwater, either there was no mention of air medics going into Edmond, Oklahoma City.
well, and I think that, population, you're gonna have population growth, and so medical needs are just gonna increase over time.
Has to, 10%.
So we're going back to 25 years or less.
Don't come by and drop flowers on my grave.
Yeah, mine too.
You probably said this and I just missed it, but how big is that hospital you're talking about in beds?
Oh, the last number I heard is somewhere around 40.
Okay.
beds do we currently have in Logan County?
It's 50, isn't it?
Currently? Josh? Got any idea how many beds we currently have in Logan County?
25.
25. They're being used and staffed. I guess.
So, just, you probably said this too, but who currently owns that land?
Trinity Regional
Trinity,
Development
okay.
Company. That's that group of 70 local investors that own our land. So they've hired us as master developer of the site.
I can't ride fast enough.
So-
With the committee, would you like a copy of the
Please.
presentation?
Yes,
We'll
please.
email it to
We're on
Troy.
it. We're already on it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get a copy.
Part of the complexity, Dan, of this case is that non-compete clause, that you would be working with our public works trust lawyer who formulated that, to ascertain and to the best of everybody's knowledge, not be stepping on the toes of the Mercy Guthrie Hospital.
Well, the complexity of this project includes more than that, but at a minimum, in connection with any financing that's done by the Public Works Authority, they would have to sign a certificate saying that the agreement that they have on this project would not violate any existing agreements, nor is there any litigation pending or threatened that would prevent the authority from going through with the transaction. So the thing was already plenty complicated before you bring in the non-compete. But yes, it does add to it.
I see.
Well, that answers my question.
And certainly, we would rely on Karen and her advice to the Public Works Authority in executing that certificate.
Any other questions?
Moving on.
Okay, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Number 8. Consideration and possible action on setting meeting dates for Logan County Tax Increment Financing Review Committee number 2. And
Dan, what are you looking at that we need to schedule for?
Well, at a minimum, I would recommend that the review committee look at least 2 more meetings. The first meeting would just be simply a review of the project and to discuss the project plan. We could get the project plan to you several days in advance so you have a chance to review it. Then, following that meeting, another meeting to consider a resolution, which would be the action by the review committee that would meet the statutory requirements for this committee. And again, we would have a resolution out beforehand. Now, that's at a minimum 2 meetings. You may want more, and I always say, we will meet as often as the review committee members feel there's a need to meet.
How soon before you can have the plan ready to look at? We have a whole lot of holiday time coming and a difficult time the rest of this month, so that's,
It's going to be difficult for me to have anything before next week. And I don't know how all that works with the committee and schedule. Of course, the following next 2 weeks, Christmas and then New Year's, creates a real hole in the middle of that week that will make it difficult.
well, I will tell you, the county offices are gonna be closed the 24th through the 26th. So we really are looking at this week here, based on when you can get something put in. This week here, again, we're gonna have closures on the 1st, and I don't know that too many are gonna do anything on the 2nd, so are you looking, you have to have enough time to put all this together, so that's kind
People are out of town those 2 weeks too.
Well, usually you can't get anything done the week of Christmas or the week of
Right.
New Year's, so. We
So
don't want
do
to
you
schedule a
think-
meeting we can't get for.
Do you think the 18th gives you enough time, or do we just wanna look to to January?
Let me ask the committee, what is your availability on the 18th?
18 December.
I'm sorry.
18 December.
18? Yeah, I should be able
Can we, you wanna just go around the table and see if that works for everyone involved?
to. Yes, I can do 1 o'clock, probably 2 o'clock, I can
Okay, so can we amend it to everyone looking at the 18th at 1?
I'll have to miss a meeting that I can miss.
Well, here's the thing, we've got commissioner meetings on the 15th, that's not
Madam,
gonna allow
do you-
down
do you
enough
mind?
time, I don't think.
Thank you.
The 16th is, there's ACO schools that I know myself and several others are already enrolled in to be in the city for. So you've got the 17th, 18th, the 19th is probably not good for me, I can push it if I need to. You're out of town, so
You're back in and you're on the 18th?
would earlier in the morning, Dr. Friedman, or for anyone else, I mean, instead of the afternoons? 10 in the morning, 11 in the morning?
I'm tied up, well, that's about the only window I've got between 1 and 3 probably on the 18th.
1 and 3?
Yeah.
So we're gonna really look at the 18th at 1?
That's fine, or you can dismiss it.
Dan, does that work for you?
I'll try to
So
make
far,
it,
yeah.
if worse comes to worse and I can't get it done, we'll just have to cancel that meeting. Wait till January.
I don't think we have a big January yet.
Is it too early to think about your January schedules? If we could go ahead and line up a meeting that first full week in January, is that possible?
This week, if we schedule something.
So do you wanna look at like the 6th? Which would be the Tuesday from here, and if you're not ready for here, we could just have this one to go with.
I would ask you to try to pencil in some date in January so that you'll know we're looking at it, so you won't fill it up in the meantime.
Do you wanna go ahead and
Start
schedule
looking
for
for
the
me.
6th?
6th, 7th, or 8th, either of any of those days, best for committee members.
6th or 7th.
2 o'clock, still afternoons?
6, 7, 8.
Let's start with the 6th.
6 is fine.
6th is fine.
I'm out on all 3.
You're out on all 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you check their tests out. See how-
Let's go to the following week then.
So then, the 15th, the morning of the 15th, we have commissioners meetings. We can look at the 13th, 14th. I don't have my schedule filled in for January yet, but how about the 13th, which is Tuesday, the 13th?
Yeah, that works.
2 o'clock?
13.
Uh-huh. And I would suggest we go ahead and set the third one, just, we can always cancel it. My thought is if you don't get the project plan, we'll be bumping through these dates, so we may.
definitely canceling the December meeting?
18th to 18th.
No, the 18th.
No, 18th at 1 o'clock.
That's still on, okay, that's only if we can't get the plan.
Right, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna schedule these on out, and then if we have to cancel and call, we will. So we've got the 18th at 1, the 13th at 2, and then if you can look at like the 20th at 2, the following week also. Yeah, so in December, it'd be the 18th at 1, in January, the 13th, and the 20th at 2.
And we can go for the, what was that, the 6th?
We're throwing the 6th out.
That's out, I mean.
That's out, 6th is out.
6, 7, 8, we threw out.
All right, so 20.
No, 13.
No, 18th, 13th, and 20th.
18th of December, the 13th of January, and the 20th of January. Are those?
2 o'clock in January and 1 o'clock in December.
Exactly.
Yes.
If that is good with everyone, Chairman, you can take action on those dates.
I need a motion for those dates for our next meetings. I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carried.
Okay. Well, number 9, consideration and possible action on adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Quickly. All those in favor, get up. Aye.
Yes.
Right when you.
He doesn't have a contract.
He does not have a contract.
Are you still rolling? Mr. Goodman, are you still rolling?
I would say maybe it might have been better somebody in Logan County, at least have a good job. I'm fine.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you too.
Sorry I had to run out.
His representatives from Guthrie. He stays very good president. He's a fantastic guy. So he understands. Just like Chris.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I appreciate your confidence.
All right.
Okay, I do too. I want to walk.
Follow the directions.
You bet. Have a great day.
This is the first test of the day, everyone fails. Please print, then I have to try to decide.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I know one board member.
I noticed we removed the word property.
He resigned.
I think that's something that Monty I could probably do. I'll do the control. Before I forget, there's that.
Okay.
That should be, you know what? I'm making a couple of changes. And yet on our way here, so.
Okay, okay. If you'll email me also, and then all but one uses email, but we have one member that doesn't use fax or email, so I'll have to paper everything for him to come get.
Okay,
Thank you. Listen, you all could have chosen another way, you know?
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Where did they get from?
If I'm the only one that can make it, they chose me.
Yeah, as long as we're-
Maybe the sock stuff.
yeah, very,
Could have chosen you.
I'm a bad. Nobody wants me.
Yeah, I really want to say right.
Yeah.